Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Hey Sister, how you doing?
Hey sister, happy homecoming.
Yes. Oh, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that in a little bit. We're so excited. And, I can't think of two better people to have on with us tonight coming off a homecoming weekend. So we're going to get into that. But if you're out there watching, welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. We appreciate you joining us tonight. As we get ready to get into our conversation, we're going to introduce our special guest, but we want you to like, follow, and share this broadcast. Anyone you think should be brought into this conversation, bring them into the conversation. Invite them to subscribe to our YouTube so that they never miss an episode, or follow us on Facebook. And sign up to get notifications, right? You got to click on that little button and make sure you get our notifications and know when we go live. Well, we also want you to join the conversation in the comments tonight. That's where all the action is. And I see we have a couple people already commenting. So we got Chantel
nice.
Shackelford out there watching. Hey, Chantel. Chantel is one of our Xavier alums. She is the president of the Chicago chapter. Let me tell you, she's doing some great things. Hello, Fred Billazon. This is one of our hometown boys. We appreciate him. He's always checking in with us at Hey Sister. And we have one of our super fans. Hey, Jody, how you doing?
Hey, Miss Jody.
So Randall, I was going to bring Jody to homecoming this year. She was this was going to be her first HBCU homecoming.
All right.
But we had to go virtual, and she came anyway. And so she came anyway, and she was in there. She had her shirt on today, had the gospel playing while she was doing her meal prep. She sent me a photo. So
she also came to the Southern University homecoming tailgate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, she did.
This was a virtual affair.
Yeah.
Let's all keep our fingers crossed for 2021.
Yes, let's do that.
Hopefully the first and the last of those.
But we're going to go ahead and introduce our guests. We got more people in the comments. I see Blair. What's up, XU fam? So we're going to introduce our guest. So since I'm talking, and I have the X on my chest, I figured I could start with that. I know my sister, let me toss it to you. Let me let you start. Go ahead. Let you start.
I mean, because S does come before X. As well as we have our lady here, as well as we know everybody who has that S on their chest, because we're the best. I am so excited to introduce my National Alumni President, Ms. LaQuitta Thomas, who is the first woman to serve in this capacity. And I believe yesterday marked the 79th anniversary of the establishment of the Southern University Alumni Federation. So I'm very excited to have her here. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. So hello, Ms. LaQuitta.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you all so much for the very gracious invitation to be a part of what I know will be a productive, fruitful, engaging discussion. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. Well, LaQuitta, thank you for joining us and representing. We're going to let that Delta thing slide, because I'm going to get in my feelings.
Listen,
it's all love. It's all love.
Be part of the discussion. This whole AK, y'all going to have to, we're going to have to figure this out now.
Y'all know we about to do the most, right?
I was at coronation on campus last night, and our Miss Southern is an AKA, and I love her. She's amazing. Several on her court. They're line sisters. So it was a lot of pink and skeevy. Okay.
Yes. Well, I'm super excited to have my National Alumni President, Mr. Randall McHenry. He hails from the Houston, Texas area. He, as you can see in the background, he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And I'm so excited to have you, Randall. I know you're tired because it's been a long homecoming weekend.
As I said earlier, our virtual homecoming is almost the same as face-to-face, because I would just be as tired as I am right now, but based on the real homecoming. But it is a pleasure to be here with you ladies. I am blessed. Thank you.
Yes. Well, let's see. So we got, like I said, shout out to Blair, Dot and Haley, XU represented in the house.
And happy birthday, Blair. Blair Bimber.
Oh, so his birthday was Friday, his virtual celebration. So I had the homecoming screen on and I had the Blair Vimber screen on at the same time. I was trying to get into all the action. We have, like I said, our homeboy, Fred Billazon, his sister, Cassandra, who's one of my line sisters, is also a proud XU alum. Let's see, we have someone, Jackson LaQuitta Haley.
She's from Thibodeau originally, but she's from Illinois. Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Thank you. And let's see, we have Kiana Daniels Jones, whose daughter is a freshman now at Xavier, who is also from our hometown. We're super excited to have Sasha at Xavier. Sasha was one of those students who was on her hustle and grind and secured over $1 million in scholarships. So she was on her hustle and grind. Yes.
That is excellent.
So we have Tiffany Devereaux, shout out. She said, hey, LaQuitta. Yes.
Love my Tiffany.
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and dive into some of the conversation that we want to have this evening. And let's talk about homecoming first, because like we said, we're coming off our homecoming weekend today. You all had your homecoming weekend last week. And homecoming is big for us at HBCUs. And so this virtual format, tell us about, how did it feel in the gap for you?
Well, I thank you. And thank you again for the opportunity. I think it's very unique that we're both HBCU presidents from Louisiana schools, and we both live in Texas. So Randall's in Houston and I'm up here in the north in Dallas, but we're holding it down. But at any rate, it's one of those things where it doesn't necessarily stop the bleed. I did this video after we finished our event on Saturday. So we did a day party. We wanted folks to get the grills out. So the theme that day was either grill, boil, or fry. Those are your options while we're doing this music for 4 hours. And then after that, we had our coach kind of kick us off into the watch party piece of what we did, which is a little different because, of course, we have a football team at Southern. And so with that being said, I did a video and I just expressly stated, I know that this doesn't necessarily stop the bleed, right? We recognize that, but we're doing something to try to connect us as best as we can with what we have. And so, the phrase goes, when you have, lemons, blue and gold lemons make blue and gold lemonade at Southern University. And so I think that it was really a good way for us to come together because so many folks were, literally walking around with a butter knife, about to, slit their wrists with a butter spreader. I mean, it was just that. It was really like that for us. And so it was important for us to be able to see each other, to, see the comments and take that stroll back down the yard, back from the 80s and the 90s. The music always makes you remember a particular time, when you were on the yard. So I think it was a good thing for us to do. Hopefully we won't ever have to do it again. But I also think that there's a model that we can also look at for the future in terms of how can we bring homecoming to those folks maybe that cannot travel physically to be in Baton Rouge and other places. Are there some things that we can do, like you said, to fill in the gap for those particular individuals? So I think that there's something that we're going to look at for the future too.
Yeah, I think that's the future of events. I think a hybrid model is where to go. And I know you saw that today in the comments too, right, Randall?
Absolutely. And in fact, it's hard to follow up on what LaQuitta just said, but I do want to take a little bit of the opposite side, just in the sense that I think this gave an opportunity for some of our alumni who hadn't been back or hadn't been as engaged to kind of see some of the things that we're doing. Right. They also got an opportunity to kind of just reconnect with some classmates online. And they were like, and so they saw all the excitement that we had and all the excitement from the pictures that we shown from previous homecoming. So I think it gave them an opportunity to say, okay, I've been a little lax. I haven't been home for a while. Maybe it's time. So once this is over, and then people being so isolated right now, I think they're itching kind of to get out. So once this is over, I think we're going to see some fresh new faces that we hadn't seen before.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, and I agree. I also agree with you that we're definitely going to have. Just imagine had we been able next year, if we do a drone of the tailgate and stream that to everybody who's at home.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know we're talking about doing a tour because I was like, I want to hit all the HBCU homecomings now.
Right.
So if you out there and you can sponsor a Hey Sister tour bus, we want to do a HBCU tour. We want to go to all the homecomings we can go to because North Carolina A&T claim they have the best homecoming. So we just won't go see what they doing over there. You know, I've had an occasion to Randall, you say you didn't make it down to Baton Rouge, but I had an occasion to make it to a couple of the Southern homecomings during my college years and always was greeted well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Had a good time.
Let me tell you all this funny story. So Randall and I have a little background in terms of this is not our first meeting. On last year, if you all remember, in the state of Louisiana, it was very important that we had a runoff election for the gubernatorial race. And so I reached out to Randall. I reached out to Sister President over at Dillard and, of course, Graham Fam to say, listen, we've got to come together as the 4 HBCUs in the state of Louisiana. It's important that we galvanize our alum to get to the polls. And of course, I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit about the election and all of that as well. But long story short, just so happened that Dillard and Xavier's homecomings were the very same weekend. So you all had completely taken over New Orleans. And so I left Baton Rouge during our tailgate. Now, this just goes to show you how important it was because we go hard on the tailgate.
Absolutely.
I'm leaving the tailgate. I'm going down 10 East. I'm on my way to New Orleans. I got to go to Dillard and pick up Madam President and then head over to Xavier. So what do we do? Randall, where are you? I'm up. Okay, Randall, where are you now? Well, you're going to have to come. And then I'm like, listen, we got to get this video done. I know you're in the middle of homecoming, but come on, brother.
I didn't want to leave tailgate either.
He didn't want to leave. So he come over, cigar, cap a flag. I'm like, come on, brother. We got to take care of business. But so that was my little introduction, just a little teeny piece of me being on the Xavier campus. But we were trying to handle business and their brother was homecoming brain. So
yes.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, and I've told people, because we're in different eras, I can't hang with them. Them Kappas of that generation. I can't hang with them. They go hard. That's all I'm going to say. You don't know, ask somebody. Well, one of the things we want to get into, we're going to talk more about, alumni, but, what do you really need from alumni? So there are people out here who are alums. We always talk about time, talent, and treasure, right, sister? Yeah. We hear that all the time. But some people need a little more specifics because they don't know how to quantify that time. They're not sure what their talent might be, and then they get shaky on that treasure piece, right? So, what are some of the specific things that we really, like you said, galvanize and get alumni active and engaged and involved?
Right.
I'll let you start.
Thank you. So, once again, we do talk about time, talent, and treasure. And we also probably need to talk about where you are in your life, how that fits. So when you're a younger alum, I think we all have to do a better job of engaging that alum from the time they graduate until maybe they're 30. We tend to lose a lot of them at that point because they're getting their careers started, maybe their families, children, that sort of thing. So at that point, I think what we need to start talking about is making very small donations, just consistent, get them in the habit of giving back. It may just be something, as I said, as the cost of a cup of Starbucks, something like that. Also, since they are young and have attachments to the school, making sure that they stay attached to some of their classmates, your younger classmates, in terms of maybe, hey, this is what I'm doing. Don't make the same mistake. A little bit of a mentoring, bringing them on from a mentoring aspect. Now, once you get a little older, then you can start maybe increasing your treasure a little bit, but also your talent. That's an opportunity for you to start giving back to the school, just in terms of coming back, speaking to different classes, at Xavier, we do something called YMTF, which is the Youth Motivational Task Force. I'm sure they do it at Southern. And that's just an opportunity for you to come back and share your experiences with current students and talk about, once again, we always talk about pivoting and talk about some of the things that you may have started out wanting to be a doctor, but you ended up in the business world. You may have started out wanting to be an engineer, but you became a lawyer. So a lot of our students may think, well, I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not a success. Well, yes, you are, because you still have time. You're getting that good Southern or that good Xavier education. So it's many things that we could talk about. And then just talk about time. Some of the things that we're doing as alums is just getting on some of these Zoom calls, engaging with our students, engaging with other alumni. Demetrius showed us a great tool on LinkedIn to make sure that we start getting connected when we're in a room. Little things like that. They're very specific. And we also talk about that word intentional. It's up to us, it's up to alumni, not just the presidents, not just the people on the executive team, to engage other alumni as well, to bring them in, to share the story of what's going on. So those are some of my thoughts of some of ways that we can just engage with our alumni a little bit more. Let me take one point of personal privilege here. She hasn't mentioned it, but Demetria Sloan is now our first vice president of the National Alumni Association for Xavier University. We are very, very happy to have her. She, and as well as the entire executive board, are smarter than me, and they keep me on my toes, and they keep me accountable. And I am very, I love them for that.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, I wasn't expecting that, but I'm like, I love it. I love everything about what we're doing with the Alumni Association, and a lot of that has been under your leadership, Randall. Because I chartered a chapter. You were a chapter president at that time as well. I think you also were on the executive, national executive team, and so I want to be a part of what we have to give back, because I think we are, we're charged with that. At least that's how I feel. So I don't know. What do you need from your alumni, LaQuitta? Thank you.
I need everything from my alumni.
I didn't want to be that blunt, but go ahead.
The greedy alumni president, but I need it all because our students deserve it all, right? And so, there's a smorgasbord of sorts of what we need to give, and Randall touched on a lot of it. It's not all of us can come to the table with a $10,000 check or a $50,000 check. Not all of us own McDonald's around the country or, a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Atlanta. So, we have to be able to meet our alum where they are and understand what they can bring to the table and how we can increase the value of what our alum can bring to the table, and to let everyone know that there's a value add to anything that you can do, especially when you're doing it from your heart, you're coming in wanting to give. And so I think it really kind of comes back to our why, so we're looking at, not all of us started this alumni journey as soon as the alumni journey started, right? So, I was one that was I tell people I was tricked early on. When I got to Dallas, I came here on a plant visit with the company, and the alumni president happened to be someone that had recruited me from another company. And he said, "Hey, why don't you come to alumni meeting?" And I was like, "Alumni? Question mark, huh?" And so, what I did though, I did go, and it was really interesting, and it was engaging to see a lot of folks who looked like me and who love Southern as much as I knew I loved Southern. And so at some point we have to meet the alumni where they are and figure out how we engage, how do we embrace, and how do we let you know that even though you may not be standing with the $100,000 check with your company's, logo and branding on that, it doesn't matter, because if you give us 20 hours of mentoring and talking to our College of Business students and reviewing resumes so that students know, okay, no, you don't really need 2 pages if you've not had an internship and you're still an undergrad, some of those leading practices around how we build professionally, career readiness, some of those things that could be just as much value as that $100,000 check that someone is holding that I never really maybe see it alumni meaning. I'm not hating on nobody. What I'm saying is that, so you may bring the check, but I may never see you. So I may never get the sweat equity. So, the 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. I'll need it all. I want it all, and I'm not leaving anything on the table. So at the end of the day, if you want to bring it in a check form, if you want to sit on a Zoom and help students, engineers get to that next level because you work at Intel or TI or IBM or wherever, let me name drop P&G, all of them, we need you at the table. And some of us can do both. So God bless you. We'll take that too.
Hallelujah. We'll take it all, right?
They can get a witness, won't he do it? So I'm just saying,
Let me make a point. We just got off of Cooking with Curtis, and we had a student on that call, young lady, Tamaya from Detroit. And she told the story of how she came to Xavier and how a counselor from Xavier encouraged her to come. Of course, being from Detroit, that would be Ada. Ada out there if you're looking. But that's part of it. That encouragement. Just somebody, this young lady probably would not have gone to an HBC. She would not have gone to Xavier because she had not heard of it. And she's a first generation college student. And now she'll be graduating next year with a pre-med degree. Wow. So that's a success story. That's an alum touching a student in a way that you can't put a dollar value on.
Right. And, dare I say, if I can just make one other comment, while it's sexy right now because Black Lives Matter and everything matters and your vote matters. And so HBCUs matter. And dare we say HBCU alumni organizations matter. So, Randall, I don't know what your thoughts are about it, but I want to be at the table while all these things are mattering so that our alum realize, okay, hey, while we're out here promoting HBCUs and all of these things matter, we need you guys to engage with us, to meet us at the table so that we can tell you what we need and how we need you to give back and where we need you to show up. And a lot of it, half of the time, is just being present. Can you be present? Because there's probably a 20 list of things or a list of 20 things that we'll need for you to do to give here, give here, give here. So it doesn't always come back down to necessarily, can you give $1? We all know that we have financial needs, that goes without saying, but there are some other things that we need, low hanging fruit that we need alum, to help. And we need our students need to see us. That was one of the things that I was challenged by our immediate past SGA president on our Baton Rouge campus. And so hopefully everyone knows that Southern is a system. And so we have a campus in Shreveport, campus in New Orleans, of course, not far from Xavier, as well as our Ag Center and our Law Center that reside in Baton Rouge. And so our SGA president for our Baton Rouge campus says, hey, Miss LaQuitta, we need to see y'all more. And I'm sitting here puzzled. So Christina, you know me, and I'm always, like I told y'all, I'm fresh off 20 right now. So Randall's been homecoming in and we've been coronationing at Southern. And so I'm fresh off the highway getting back. And so I'm like, what do you mean? Because I'm here all the time. But, sometimes we have to take a step back and look at it from the lens of the person who's delivering the message to say, okay, now what is it exactly that I'm missing here? So you need to see us in what capacity? More than just homecoming. So, okay, get that. And we're there. Some of us are there, but there is definitely an opportunity for us to be more present, to show up at the career fairs, engage your companies to come back. Yeah, so we need that, as well. We need you to come back and go make those classroom visits and talk about your fabulous day in the life as being an engineer at whatever company, or being an accountant, or, having your own company, being an entrepreneur. Begin to show our students what they can become, because they're going to become us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, sister, I know you have a question. I'm going to toss it to you. And I'm going to start dropping links in the comments, because like you said, treasure don't hurt nobody either. So we will take your dollars whether you went to an HBCU or not. How about that?
True.
Well, and I often try to tell people, I mean, we're all members of the Divine Nine here. Most of the schools that are a part of the Divine Nine started at HBCU. So if you are a member of a Divine Nine, you have an HBCU to thank for that. So
thank you.
You should also provide to HBCUs for that matter. I wanted to ask about what Miss Kimberly Reese, and I believe she's in the comments, she had been a part of Hey Sister before, and she referred to an increase in students during the Trump administration as the Trump bump. They were seeing the Trump bump. Now that thankfully he will not be in office, how do we continue to inspire and motivate students who sometimes it seems like when we get this equality, if you will, like you said, everything matters right now. Black lives matter, all votes matter. Now that we are back in this space where we are maybe not going to feel the pressures of racism, xenophobia, every other phobia every single day, how do we continue to drive home the point that no, you still need to pick an HBCU?
Right.
Yeah, I think we continue to promote the excellence of what we do and what our programs have to offer. And I agree that after we get through this season, because here's what I can tell you. So we know that 45 is going to do everything that he can do to remain and to the highest of courts and all these other things. So we know that there's going to be a lot of shenanigans and charades that we will see between now and January 20th, I think that he has to be out. And so at the end of the day, what we really have to be concerning ourselves with is the mindset that's been planted. And that's not going to end by January the 20th. And so unfortunately, but maybe fortunately, for the HBCUs, we're going to continue to see that hate and a lot of that uncomfortableness of the racism and feeling like, I'm driving down the highway and concerned about somebody maybe trying to run me off the road because they see me as a Black female in a vehicle by myself on I-49 coming through Shreveport. Should I be concerned about these things? So even with 45 going out of office, I don't think that we take our foot off the gas. We've got to continue to press as hard as we can, because the mindset is still going to be out there, because you're talking 4 years plus of him planting and allowing and supporting and being an advocate for something that was just completely against all moral, the moral fiber of what our country should be about, right? So I still think we have a window. Even though he's going out of office, the mindset has been planted. We've got to still continue to work hard. We've got to continue to still promote our HBCUs and promote the excellence. We've got to promote the excellence. We got to promote the excellence of what we have to offer. We can't take our foot off the gas. We can't assume that someone else is going to tell our story. We've got to own the narrative around our HBCUs. And dare I say this, and then I'm going to hand to Randall, we've got to keep the competition where the competition belongs. And what do I mean by that? If it's football season, and if it's us and Graham or us and J-State or whoever it may be, then let's leave that competition there. But when it comes down to the corporate room and all of these other opportunities that we have to sit at the table, I'm riding hard for Xavier. I'm riding hard for Dillard. I'm riding hard for Grambling, because at the end of the day, we all look the same to those. To the folks that we're talking to. So I'm not coming in and throwing salt in what all of our other HBCUs are doing. We have to be very, very careful with this rivalry thing that we have, and we've got to learn how to celebrate what we all bring to the table.
Absolutely.
I agree wholeheartedly. At the end of the day, what really counts? Results. What do our graduates do? How are they successful? We all know that they are. Now that's the back end. What happens on the front end? Front end, we have students coming to our schools that are merit scholars. first top 10% in their class, but we also have some students that come in and they need a little help to succeed, right? So at a PWI, if you are maybe get on academic probation, go ahead and go home, son, because we got 3 more coming behind you. At our school, you're going to be nurtured. Somebody's going to put their arm around you. They're going to look at your eyes and say, I see potential in you, but you're not taking it seriously. How can I help you? To me, that's the difference. And I'll just tell a personal story. As I said, I came first generation. I came to school with that duffel bag, but it was a Foot Locker, kind of by myself. There were gentlemen that I didn't know from my hometown who put their arm around me and said, look, let me teach you what you need to do in order to survive here, in order to prosper here. And that's what they did. And that's what you get at schools like us. So it's even more important now that we continue to promote, we continue to get our students in HBCUs. I tried my hardest to get my son to go to Xavier. He didn't go. But guess where he's at? He's at Prairie View. Okay. So
we'll take it.
Yeah, I'm not hating. Now they wearing the Prairie View gear when I took them up there. Still have my XU on. But you know, he's there and I'm supporting him. I'm gonna play in their golf tournament this Thursday. But,
oh wow.
But the point is, it's even more important that we do it now. And we do have, let's face it, we do have a little cachet because we have results. Look at the people who graduate from our schools. Look what they do. Okay. So we have to continue to do that. We have to continue to promote even more so now.
Yeah.
And
so I was going to say, we're going to get into the results, but I want to show a few of the comments we have.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have some comments. So Demetria D2 is out there. She says, wow, that's a word. Hashtag HBCU Alumni Associations Matter. That's right. We dropped those links. We had Kimberly Reese. I shared this earlier, but I'm going to share it again. It says every Black person should support at least one HBCU because the truth is, if you are Black in this country and there's education anywhere in your family line, somebody went to an HBCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. We have Kathy Fletcher Victorian saying, I love my HBCU. We see which one she represents. But we also have somebody's sister who's watching who says HBCUs rock. Hey, Nicole. Good to see you.
UAPB.
Yes, that's right. That's right. She's
a golden lion in the premises, huh?
Then I have another HBCU alum, and I want to bring part into the conversation. He says, do not depend on school councils to promote HBCUs in our local school districts. It is on us as alumni to brand our institutions with the facts and our success stories. And so that young man is an HBCU alum, Jackson State. What do you think the impact of having Deion Sanders be head coach at Jackson State, and now a lot of D1 eligible players starting to commit to go to HBCUs? What do you think that impact is going to have? We know we have sports. I mean, you know, we have a basketball tradition. Xavier hasn't played football since 1970, but Southern, you know, when you look at the NFL Hall of Fame, you guys have 4 members in there. I think Texas Southern has 4. I think Jackson State has 4 or 5. It's like, you know, but that was lost somewhere along the way, right?
Right.
So what do you think that impact is going to have? Because I think everybody think we hot now.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Randall take that one. Then I'm gonna come.
I think this is actually pretty huge. Okay, it's not just huge because of Deion. It's huge because of some of the coaches he's bringing with him as well. Because if long term, now you know, let's face it, everything is about perception. It's about winning. It's about the kind of program you put together. Okay, so long term, this can be a very, very good thing. Number one, if these guys start, the big thing about HBCUs is not the fact that they can't play pro football, is that they don't get the exposure. So my hope is Deion will get them the exposure that they need, because a lot of times you always hear about, well, they don't play the same competition. yet Jerry Rice went to an HBCU. You know,
Steve McNair went to an HBCU.
Steve McNair. Right here in Houston.
Shannon Sharp went to an HBCU.
Shannon.
Michael Strahan went to an HBCU.
Williams.
So to my mind, it's about getting them the exposure that they need. That Deion's name will bring NFL scouts to Jackson, Mississippi. So that's the good thing about that in my mind. And I look forward to it. I think it could be a good thing. And, you know, the results will be in the pudding, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I agree. It's the E word, it's exposure, and that's really what I think that whole Deion piece really brings and adds the value, because I think maybe from his exposure, I don't know what he really knows about HBCUs and what his level of comfort, right, and knowledge coming into the role. But what I can promise you is that he's going to learn, if he doesn't already have a lot of background knowledge around some of the difficulties and the challenges and the limitations sometimes that are put on us as HBCUs and the opportunities that are out there for us to sit at those tables, whether it be, you know, academically or whether it's in athletics, of course, and sports and all of that. So I'm hoping that as a result of his engagement with Jackson State, that we will see him be a cheerleader, an advocate, you know, that person that's speaking on behalf of HBCUs in those rooms that we don't always get to be a part of. You know, we know that they exist, and we know that he has a foot in the door, an arm, a body, just, you know, because, you know, being here in the Dallas area where Deion has spent several years when he played with the Cowboys, and actually has lived not far from where I live, as a matter of fact. So, you know, there's a brand. He's primetime. There's a brand. So we know that that brand is going to be invited to sit at many, many tables. And I'm just hoping that he will take us with him to those tables, be the advocate for Jackson State, but also be, you know, the advocate in that room for HBCUs as well.
Many of the athletes, as they were growing up, and you said it earlier, Demetria, that they have HBCU people in their family, right? So many of them are used to that tradition. Many of them went to the homecomings as kids, but they felt like in order to maximize their athletic potential, they had to go to a PWI. So for them now, some of them now to say, okay, you know, if you won't let me coach, then I'll go to a HBCU. Welcome. Come on. We welcome that. That's a great thing.
Right.
Absolutely.
I would just want to say really quickly, because I know that the majority of our audience is an HBCU graduate audience, but for those who don't know, PWI is predominantly white institution, because I know we say it a lot, but I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of what that stands for.
Right. So we got a couple more comments here. We have
interesting thing. I'm not.
No, go ahead. Finish, Randall.
No, I was just saying I'm not hating on those schools. There are those of us who it may be the best thing for them to go to those schools, but you want to have the choice. That's all.
Right. Well, and I think it's fair that we give our students an option. They need to know what we bring to the table. So again, you know, dare I say, we go back to the promote the excellence of who we are as HBCUs and show these folks, hey, you can come to a Xavier, you can come to a Southern University, and you can walk away with so much more than what you showed up with your little rusty, like you say, your duffel bag, your little trunk with all these patches on it. You're walking away with so much more. As you enter into this, you know, whatever this next thing is for you. So I say we just make sure that we're at the table. We've got to be a part of the discussion.
Well, I'm gonna drop some of these comments, and I'm gonna make a comment. So we have we are Southern with Representative Madam President, Jackie Alexander, who is an alum of BCU Bethune-Cookman, which is now a part of the SWAC.
Welcome to the SWAC.
Promoting lifetime networking and family-like ties. Nicole said there are lots of love from HBCUs. Mine made me who I am today. We have Vonda, former Miss Xavier, out there watching, says, so proud of you, Randall. We have Tamika Prude Selders, who was on our show. She says, I agree that as an alumni of HBCUs, we have to set a standard for our own children and those within our communities. We have to intentionally target second, third, fourth generation college students, also those from upper middle class families who are coming from elite PWI high schools, also need allies and mentors who stress the importance and success of HBCUs because their high school counselors are not. That's kind of a repeat of what Jeffrey was saying earlier. As parents, aunties, uncles, we have to manage the conversations around school choice, SU. And so I want to pick back on that because I'm a parent now with a child who is 18. And one of the things we've been really clear about, and we had, we do this gathering every Labor Day, and we had this conversation. We had a lot of folks over, and we were talking about,
not this year.
Not this year. This is like 2 years ago now.
It could have been a Zoom. It could have been a Zoom one, though.
Yeah, no, it's like 2 years ago. But we were having a conversation, HBCUs versus PWIs, right? Because we like to engage in these conversations amongst our network. And my friend, sorority sister, Lavora Cowan, said something that it's just stuck with me since then. She said, the one time in our children's life where they'll have a chance to be in the majority is that 4 years.
Right.
Why not give them that opportunity?
Right.
And, we've all gone on to other institutions for those graduate degrees because we certainly get accepted. And we certainly matriculate. Xavier certainly matriculates lots of medical doctors and pharmacists and Southern. You have your own law school, but you matriculate, lawyers and doctors as well. I know we've had Dr. Maurice Scholes on, who went on to Harvard Medical School, right? Yep. So we know what we produce, but that one period in your life, especially because some of us have reached a certain tax bracket. Our children go to these schools where what brought us to allow us to be in those certain areas is looked down upon, right? Or looked as not as valuable. And that has always perplexed me when I've even heard alums say, oh, well, I don't want my child to go there. And I'm like, I don't get that, because if it was good enough to produce you who got your child to this level, then why not for your child? So
I wanted to piggyback off of that too, sister.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you. I just believe that I am wholeheartedly convinced that for our children to be fully self-actualized, they need to go to an HBCU, because you're going to go on to further education in where you can go to other people's school later. That's right. That's where I stand with it now at this point in my life. So I don't know, Sid, sister.
Yeah, so Tamika is my line sister. So shout out to Tamika. She has a son that's a graduate of Morehouse, and she has a daughter at Hampton now. And she and her husband are proud Southern University graduates. And for me, it's funny that I love the way she articulated that, because years ago I lived in Los Angeles, and Cheryl Underwood was doing this production about HBCUs. Now, I don't think it ever came out, but she was supposed to do it. And I remember going in for the interviews, and initially, I guess what I was saying wasn't really resonating for the producers. And so then finally, I guess I just let down my guard, and I was like, listen, I wanted to go to HBCU. For lack of better words, I was tired of white people. And so then they were like, say more. And I said, I just was so tired of feeling like, I was this exception to the rule, or being the token. Like every time you need a Black person to check the box, they put me on the committee or put me in the group. I knew, because I had the fortune of going to Southern for summer programs leading up to actually going as an undergraduate, that I had met students who danced much better than I did, who were way smarter than I was. Like I was taking honors classes and my physics class was nothing. I was like, what physics are they taking? Because we're not getting that physics at my high school. And I often felt like it was, I was just so tired of being that, as we've talked about before, you're not like other Black people kind of thing. And so when I said that, the producers were like, we definitely want to talk to you now. Like, because they had a lot of people who were saying, I went for the band. I wanted to play in the band. I wanted to be a cheerleader. I was an athlete. But to hear that perspective, that wasn't one that a lot of people were saying at that time. And I know a lot of people are like that. They've gone to these high schools where they have been in the minority as a Black person, and they've always been good enough for certain roles, but not all the roles. And they've checked certain boxes for that school, but then they're not able to fully be their fully actualized selves in those environments. And so they need that HBCU experience to do that. And so I know, Randall, when I was clarifying what PWI was, absolutely no hateration, holleration in this dancery. But I will say that having gone to Tulane University, I guess that's the full name. I just usually say Tulane, but Tulane University as for my MBA, I always say I can take the smartest person from Southern University and the smartest person from Tulane. I put them head to head with each other. And I trust that not only will the Southern University person be smarter, but they'll also at least have a personality. Very often, the brainiacs of these schools, they're like Mark Zuckerberg. They're just very
socially awkward. And there are skill set, at my women's conference, a former VP I had was on there. He's a white man, and he talked about, there are skills that Black women have specifically that are intangible skills. They're not going to show up on the resume, but I know part of it is we got it at the HBC. We get it from our life experience. But let me tell you, resilience, if you're going to survive corporate America, all of us have been in corporate America. We know what it means to have resilience. We know what it means to have tenacity. We know what it means when we get humbled, because, I've gotten a report card a time or two and was like,
right.
I thought I was smart and I got humbled, right? There's so many skills that you learn at HBCU that are intangible, that are not going to show up on your resume, but that will make you successful leader and really carry you far, and not just in the corporate environment, but in your life. So I don't know. We got some more comments in here. Let me see. So until Kamala was selected as a VP pick, people were still discounting HBCUs. Unfortunately, people don't feel that the education at HBCUs are as good as PWIs. What people can't see, because they are colorblind, is that HBCU grads are going on to the best graduate, medical, law schools, and making the biggest and greatest impact on our world. Keep thinking HBCUs can't, and we'll keep showing you that we can. We have some more proud Xavier fam in the house. We have our friend Jody. She said PWI grad ×2. Counselors at my high school never discussed HBCUs. Having older parents, HBCU wasn't an option. So we know we have that hurdle. And make the sacrifice and take your kids to homecoming. LOL. So my husband, he's LOL in there, because one year he made the sacrifice and took both of our kids and our niece to the homecoming, which meant he couldn't do what you normally do at homecoming, Randall. So, but he made that sacrifice. I think it's been about 4 or 5 years ago. But since then, they've kind of been really indoctrinated that I want this type of experience, right? As a first generation college student, I was fortunate to have a dad who didn't give me a choice but to attend an HBCU. His choice was Spelman, but Xavier accepted me first with the scholarship. He was super happy with the money, and I was closer to home. Right? We got more shout outs for LaQuitta. Let's
Hey,
see what else we got out there. Yes, constantly being surrounded by excellence, and the producers of it look like you. You can't get that at a PWI. I never considered a PWI. My parents pushed me out the door and told me I needed culture. They said I want Donna or Kelly from 90210, and I was going to a HBCU. I guess they didn't want that.
Right.
Yeah, USL at the time, right there is the center of Lafayette, but it was a hard no for my dad and myself. Raging Cajuns, no. And then another one, will HBCUs maximize the marketing advantage that has been presented with itself with a new VP elect? Hey, cousins and Madam President. So, hey,
Willie.
All right. So that's a good conversation. And that's something we were going to talk about, women running politics right now, right?
Hey, Demetria, please hold that. I just want to get to one subject. I know I don't know how you do it, if we can go over or not, but
we can't go over. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you go ahead and hit that women's.
Well, no, go ahead, bring your point up.
I wonder if your topic is my topic. Go, Randall.
Well, no, we talked about this a little earlier, and we talked about, I kind of missed it when we said, what do we need for alumni? And I wanted to bring it back up. And the answer is, we need alumni to be intentional. And intentional about getting us in the right spaces. We want to make sure that we're in the right rooms. A lot of times, Southern is larger than Xavier, so I'm sure your alumni network is bigger. For us, we have about 24,000 alumni out there, but that's still a lot of connections. So if I don't know them, somebody does. So we need to make sure that we're in the rooms when the reason that Netflix donated the money the way they did is because the former president of Diller and UNCF was on that board with him. So once again, we have to make sure that we're in the room. So we need our alumni to reach back out. They need to be intentional. We ask them to be intentional and ask us, what can I do for you? Who can I connect you with? If there's a foundation at your job, and if you don't know their policy, then you're not being intentional. You need to know how they spend their money. So I just wanted to make sure that we got that in, because we need them to connect us with the school, to connect us with partners like Google and Apple and Intel and others, to make sure that we can be in the room, or somebody we know can be in the room to be represented. We talked earlier about certain schools, and you said don't hate, and I'm not hating, but I do get a little caught up in my feelings when every time I look around that Howard's getting some money and more, and I'll be honest, and it's not because hating on them, because I realize the value of our education.
Yeah.
So that's all, and I want other people to understand what that value looks like.
And I think we go further, right, Randall, than that. It's okay. We've got those advocates that can get us to the table and make us a part of the discussion, but we've got to be ready to have the discussion, right? So if I go, and we're picking on Intel, sorry, Christina, I'll pick on my company. So if we're at Texas Instruments here in Dallas, and I'm looking for electrical engineers, and I don't have enough, but I want Southern to take advantage of that opportunity, or some other HBCU, we got to make sure that we have what is needed by these companies to help them reach the goals that they've set for themselves as a corporation, and how we, intersect those particular opportunities to show what we can do and produce, and for them to understand what we've walked away with as our HBCU education, and with what our degrees, the value that our degrees really bring to the table. So to me, it's having the person there that can get us, in the door, but we've got to come in there with a full-blown presentation, students, this, that, everything, to show why we deserve to be at that table, because we get the opportunities and we can't produce, then there's a setback for our HBCU and other HBCUs that could potentially come behind us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Agreed. And Till Holden says here, yes, Randall. And this is the time. That was something you were talking about earlier, LaQuitta, to be intentional with everything going on in the world. Companies are looking to be diverse. We need to be in the room creating pipeline program for HBCU grads, ask for the money and have a plan for it. And so that's what we said. Corporate partners, there are more than 5 HBCUs. Like you said, we're not hating on none of them, but there's over 100. Right.
Yeah, I wanted to say that part.
That love.
As Teal said, companies are looking to be diverse, but we need to hold our company's feet to the fire. So I articulated to you all a story where with the company I work with, Intel, they have a program for HBCUs, or they had a program for HBCUs. I don't know where it is in their strategic plan right now, but anyway, but they had, the big 5, big 6 in engineering, you'll add NC, A&T there, but but part of the advantage for some of the universities was that they had a PWI in close proximity. So when you think about from a recruitment standpoint, if they fly into town and they go to Georgia Tech, then they can go to Morehouse or Spelman. And it's not as big of a heavy lift financially for them. Many times they'll say, I've heard people say, in terms of PWIs, like they can go to a Michigan and get 1,000 engineers. But for me, it's like, but of that 1,000, how many of them are going to be Black engineers? So if you really want to be diverse, then let's hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they are going to our universities, or give us at least an explanation. Because one of the things my boss and I did was go to them and say, okay, so how did you make the decision about these 5 of these 6 universities? Right. What was the backdrop? And that's when I learned, well, in Southern being in Baton Rouge, even LSU in close proximity, if there was more recruitment from LSU, then that would have put Southern even in a better position. But there's not a lot of recruitment at all. There's no recruitment actually specifically for Intel at LSU also. So understanding what it is that they're looking for, as Randall pointed out, is very important, but holding them accountable, because there are more. I love the 5 HBCUs, 5 or 6 that are constantly a part of the diversity and inclusion initiatives. But let's get them to expand. And at very least, this is my personal opinion, at very least, their giving should be reflective of their employee base. So if you have HBCUs that are represented, if you have 10 HBCUs represented, then at very least, your giving should include something that gives back to those 10 HBCUs.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it also comes back down to, because everything matters these days, and the companies again are trying to diversify, or at least they're wanting to show that they're diversifying and making sure that if HBCUs are not a part of their corporate strategy when it comes down to hiring, how do we now? I can't even begin to tell you how many folks I've talked to probably over the last 3 to 4 months that are HBCU graduates that are saying, hey, LaQuitta, yes, so my company now wants me to be a part of this coalition now for HBCUs. And so now we've got this opportunity. How do we make sure that our HBCUs are ready to have the discussion? But then how do we make sure, to the point earlier, now that 45 is out and we're grooming this next, administration to come in, how do we make sure that these things are not forgotten? We need to make sure that we're still having these regular meetings with these folks and holding, to your point, Christina, their feet to the fire to make sure that commitment to bring in HBCU talent at these corporations goes forth the way that it's been planned. Because if it was a need in March and after George Floyd and all these other things, then it's going to be a need in January. Nothing's changed, right? So we need to make sure that commitment, those things, those objectives, and we've got these virtual career fairs, NSB, National Black MBA, all of these areas that are out there for us to go and secure this talent that's out there.
Right. Yeah. I'm not sure if you said it, Christina or Demetria, but the other thing is making sure that you said the schools are ready. And some schools are more progressive than others. Some are more conservative than others. And I'll speak frankly from my opinion. I think Xavier can be a little conservative sometimes when it comes to moving on opportunities. This is just my opinion. So what I've tried to do is have conversations without stepping on too many toes that that requires our department heads to be receptive when opportunities come, and to talk to the provost to say, hey, these opportunities may come your way, but we need to be ready, because sometimes when the companies are ready to move, they're ready to move. Okay. Right. They don't have time. They're not waiting 2-3 months for you to get some committee together to consider it. They're ready to go. And we have to be ready. The schools have to be ready as well.
Yeah, I have a comment here I want to bring up, and I think this is an important one. So Jeff says here, if you're a hiring manager within your organization/corporation, you can change the narrative on which resumes you have come across your desk. Intentionally ask for HBCU candidates. This can begin at the internship level, which feeds the pipeline. And I know this is something that he's been doing a lot of, because of course, when he first said, hey, I want HBCU graduates, the HR recruiter is like, that one school. And he's like, no, well, let me tell you about all these schools. I want somebody, because, I need chemical people. So I need chemistry. I need somebody from Xavier. I need somebody from this school. I need them, really naming them out. He also says here that Thermo Fisher is looking to employ 500 HBCU graduates over the next 3 years. So that's what his company is doing. So find out what your company is doing. Because if you don't know, find out so you can start building that bridge. So yes, school readiness is important. Miss Gwendolyn LaCroix, she's one of our alums, and she wants me. So LaQuitta, my dad is an SU alum in 46, and my brother 1975. Many of my cousins went to SU too. I'm a proud XULA alum. All HBCUs matter. We love each other's. And then she also said, we're going to have to reach out to our senators and representatives to support initiatives and legislations for our new president. That's absolutely correct. And then Till says, I've started to do this, which opened up a whole other conversation about our acquisition process. Absolutely. Because if you start doing it with and probably in your procurement process too, because you can open up a whole lot of conversations about
supplier diversity.
Who are you doing business with? The supplier diversity. Because it was really shameful, a couple months back for Wells Fargo, who has been fined so many times for discriminatory practices, for their CEO to have the audacity to say, we talked a lot about audacity yesterday, sister, that there was not enough, in the talent pool. And, I just want to say there are 107 HBCUs. There was enough talent out there. Like you said, there's NSBE. There's the National Black Accountants. There's AKA. There's Links. There's Delta. There's Kappa. There's you.
We're there.
We're there. Where are you?
Right.
How about that?
And I'll tell you all this funny story. So I'm a STEM girl. And I work in IT. And so one of our previous leaders said, oh, well, now we're not going to go to HBCUs. We're just going to go to like Texas A&M and go and talk to their NSBE organization. And we should be able to find all of the engineers that we're looking for. And I was sitting there like, are you serious right now? And so, at that time, talking to a diverse HR director at that time. And so she was like, LaQuitta, I know, because my face got all contorted. And she was like, just hold on, calm down. She said, what we're going to have to do is go with this model just to show him that it doesn't work, and that we need to keep HBCUs as a part of the pipeline in terms of the offerings. And so sometimes you have to go in, and I don't want to necessarily play the game, but play the game if there's another better way to say it. But you almost have to do that to show, okay, yeah, this model does not work. It's not going to produce what we need. It's not efficient. It's not effective. So, hey, let's go back to what we knew. was working previously, if there's some things that we need to fine tune in the relationship, then let us work on those things, but let's not just completely abandon it and then say, oh, well, we'll go talk to the NSBE group at a PWI. Nah.
Not gonna work.
Nah.
So we had a few more topics. So if you all are okay with going a little bit longer, we've got a couple more topics we do want to touch on. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we were going to talk about women running politics. But I don't know if we need to say a lot on that one right now, but one thing we know, and we're going to drop this article here in the chat, is that, hey, we have an HBCU graduate who an HBCU alum who is going to be at the helm as Vice President of the United States. We know that Stacey Abrams put a ground game together that flipped Georgia. We know we have Keisha Lance Bottoms over there as the mayor in Atlanta. We know we got LaToya Cantrell over as the mayor in New Orleans. So I will say our Black women HBCU grads have really been stepping it up in politics. Now, there are a lot of Black male HBCU grads in politics as well. So I'm not going to discount that. In Louisiana, we have Royce Duplessis. I just want to relish in this moment a little bit. So Randall, this might not be for you. This might be
I actually have a comment. When they were getting ready to have the vice presidential debate, and you talked about resilience earlier, I remember thinking to myself that Mike Pence doesn't want this heat. He don't want the heat that's coming this way. He don't want this heat, because once again, I've had the privilege, I have two sisters. I don't have a brother, raised by mom, aunt, and a grandmother. And I understand that you don't want to argue with a Black woman. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, over these years. But in all seriousness, I think you're right about the resilience of that. And we have gone from the very strong, very smart, uneducated woman of our great grandparents to the now very smart, educated woman, who's still doing it all, because they're still being moms, they're still being, tutors to the kids. They're doing all of that, and yet they're still running things as well. No, I think this is a great thing. As I always, I say, my success, it comes from being around people that are way smarter than me, and 80% of those people are women. That's just the bottom line.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And so Nicole McHenry, one of those sisters, says, LaQuitta, she needs to reach out to you because she's looking to recruit an engineer for the National Park Service.
Absolutely. So, I can put my information in the chat or whatever.
And Randall can share that. Randall can make that connection.
You'll have it before you get off the phone. I'll text it to you right now.
I was going to say, you got my number.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So, but one of the things so we talked about the women, but let's talk about Black men in higher education. I know, sister, you wanted to ask this question specifically around Black males going into teaching even. So.
Well, yeah, we're the product of a father who is a professor, a university professor, who has, understands the value of it. It was a student athlete, but went into teaching and loves teaching very much so. I guess as two Louisiana institutions specifically, where unfortunately higher education, even if you're a private school, the state budget has been gutted on so many occasions when it comes to education. How do we re-emphasize the value of education, higher education, and then how do we attract more Black men into our universities, and also to become professors and teachers as well?
Yeah, this is a hard one. I mean, it really is. We had our board of governors call yesterday, and this question came up with our president, and he basically said we're losing a lot of our young men in middle school, and sometimes even younger than that. And we're losing them for a variety of reasons that haven't totally been quantified yet. Some of that could just be the culture. some of that could be the expectation of young men. They're not either they're not required, or they're not their expectation to be as productive as young women are these days is not quite there. So I'm not totally sure, to be very honest with you, what that dynamic is. But I do know that once we get them to school, we have to make sure that we nurture them and make sure that they get out. Now, getting them. I shared with you earlier that I have a nephew that had all the aptitude in the world to I have two nephews. Both of them have the same aptitude. One chose a different path, and he's not as productive as he could be today. The other one just graduated from University of Houston. So once we get them there, I think it's our obligation to try to get them out. And I hope you have a better answer than I do, LaQuitta, because I really wish I did.
Yeah, it is really tough, because you look at what the options are and what we look at in terms of all of the different generations of people. So we have, what we call our millennials, and they've not known anything other than instantaneous gratification, so I don't know all of our ages and stuff. I may be the oldest person on this panel, but as I'm on my journey to 50 next year, there's a totally different approach to the way that we've learned and done things. And so I think it comes back down to, how do we put the options that are out there and make them attractive? Because if you're looking for the 6-figure salary and that's what you feel like you need because you're trying to floss and do all these other things, well, then coming in and being a Black man that teaches and helps other, young men and young women to get that, the aha moment, as Oprah talks about all the time, or for them to see the light or to see their potential or what they really can be, may not be as attractive. So how do we put that out there for folks to be able to see? Some of us are the Harriet Tubmans. We've been put in place to bring somebody else along on the journey, and some of us are not necessarily in that role. We may be the one that's sitting at the front of the table, that's making the 6 figures, that's doing that. So there's room for everybody. But how do we make it attractive to show what ultimately the end result could be? You could educate the next president of the United States and think about, as a Black man, hearing a President Obama or hearing, a Vice President-elect Kamala Harris thank her 5th grade, teacher or her high school teacher who showed her and told her, you can be this one day. You can do this one day with your very diverse background. Because when you look at her and to know all of the pieces that make up Kamala Harris, it's pretty amazing, right? To see the diversity of who she really is and what she represents, because she represents so much. And so I think we have to continue to show the value. What are the options? What you can actually pour and plant into someone that can lead into their whatever. That is kind of like taking that blank sheet of paper and saying, you're here, you're Waldo, where do you want to go? Your life is a blank sheet of paper. You can pretty much do what you want to do, be what you want to be. And how do we show Black men that you can be that person that helps that young person get to that next level? So I think tough because you don't get a lot of you get a lot of days off, but in this day and age, in being an educator, there's a lot of risk that's involved. And now we're in a pandemic. We hadn't even really touched on what the pandemic has meant to all of these particular topics that we've touched on, right? So you think about that. Even pre-pandemic days, coming in the classroom was risky because you don't know what you're dealing with. These kids are bringing in a lot of things that they're dealing with at home. And how do you, again, make it attractive when someone can say, you know what, I can just go sit at a corporate table. I don't have to deal with all of these emotional issues and all of this other
stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. And it's a great discussion, but it is a very tough I don't know that there's a one size fits all, or there's a one answer that fits all. It just kind of comes back down to, I think, our own individual journeys and our why, our own personal why.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're gonna need a whole Hey Sister just on this topic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, and it's gonna be a topic.
I think you're right.
You're going to find somebody smarter than me, but yeah, you're gonna need a whole one just because it's very, very it's very complex. Somewhere along the lines, you know, it wasn't cool to be smart. Then you had the temptations of the streets, which led to incarceration, which led to once you got out, you didn't really have a whole lot of opportunity, you know, out there for you. So it's a very complex, you know, because once again, you know, I'm just going to break it to my street days. If you could sell drugs, you could do math. If you could sell drugs, you could be a businessman. If you could sell drugs, you could be an engineer, because they all have the same aptitude and skill level.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you can probably be a chemist too. But
you can probably be a chemist. How about that? We have some comments on that, you know, because we know that what the data does show, that if you do have a for Black children, if they have a Black teacher, they're likely to go on to college. And for Black males, especially if they have a Black male teacher, they are likely to go on. We were lucky; we still had some strong Black male. We had Black male teachers when we were growing up, but I don't know if I look at our high school now, I don't know if there are many or any.
As many. Mm-hmm.
So we have, let's see. My father was a student athlete turned educator and coach. Sounds like ours, huh? Mm-hmm. At Texas Southern, he would recruit other athletes that weren't making it into the pros or didn't know their next step to consider education. He realized early that he sometimes was the only educated male father figure to many of his young male students. So he would find those leaders within athletics and cultivate several of them yearly to be teachers. Yeah. It starts at an early age, definitely a multifaceted problem. Tiffany says, as a community, we're hard on our girls. Go to school, get your education so that you can be independent. But we love on our boys, cuddling them for too long because the world has been so rough and bad to them. We need to preach the same thing to the boys. Go to school, stay in school, wait to start a family, be independent, carve your way in this world. We have
that's a good point.
That's a good perspective. We have another one. The problem for Louisiana HBCUs is that the state is so bass backwards in how it values education. And by state, I mean the voting public.
Yes. And that's kind of what I wanted to get at with that question, because in my opinion, we have to make intelligence attractive again. And we've had, for lack of better words, 4 years of dumbing it really way down. And so how do we get people to be intellectually curious and want to learn new skill sets? You know, we've had a lot of discussions in recent days about, we are voting for Trump because of the oil jobs, oil and gas jobs. And it's like, how do you get people to change their mindset and understand that you need education? First of all, when we were talking about Black male educators, you know, being a teacher, you can pretty much live in any state because there's always going to be a need for teachers, good teachers, especially. But then, as LaQuitta, you pointed, you're a STEM girl, I'm a STEM girl, Demetria is a STEM girl. How do we also talk more about, you know, transitioning from the oil and gas industry, from being maybe working on a platform, but then or becoming an engineer who is engineering processes at a different level in the oil and gas industry, or being a business executive in the oil and gas industry and making some decisions about moving toward alternative energy sources. So it's just, it's how do we make that intelligence and education and stop running for the quick gratification? But that's a whole nother hate.
That's a whole nother hate, sister. And I tell you, we could probably go all night long. I know that this has been a very healthy conversation and I have enjoyed it, but what do you want to say in closing? I'm going to let LaQuitta start first, like ladies first, Randall. and just kind of what would you like to say in closing to the audience? We still have a good viewing audience out there. You know, what do you want them to take away? What do you want them to know about Southern? And, you know, how do we continue to come together and be united and capitalize on this moment for HBCUs?
Right. So I think in closing, and I'm probably going to miss something because there's so much that can be said, but what I think from my heart, I really feel is that I want us to be excellent. We have so much in terms of our history, our culture. We are queens and kings, and we need to begin to live and be who we are. We need to, because, you know, it gets really, really tricky when we want to sit at the table and we want to have these discussions, but we contradict ourselves with the way that we live or how we handle each other. And, you know, not that I want to throw a love and hip hop under the bus, but at the end of the day, we want our young women to understand that as HBCU graduates, or as you're thinking about college and what you want for your personal roadmap, that there's so much more for you that's out there, and that you are young queens, that you are young kings, and we want you to choose an HBCU. I would love for you to choose Southern. I'm always gonna, you know, hold that blue and gold banner up, but I believe in all HBCUs. I believe in what we bring to the table, and I want us to continue to walk in the excellence that we know exists for our different organizations, for our different universities, and begin to really promote that so that our younger generations see that there is more to, you know, life than WAP. We can do more and be more than that. And we should challenge ourselves and want more for ourselves so that we can be taken seriously when we have those seats at the table. So I don't want anyone to think, okay, well, no, they just, you know, we're always stereotyped and put into these boxes. And I want to bust out of these boxes and for us to really walk in the excellence of who we are as African Americans, as HBCU graduates, as Divine Nine members. We represent so much, and we are so rich, and we have got to begin to live that, be that, allow this season of Kamala and Black Lives Mattering and HBCUs mattering to motivate us to do more, to get up and be present. Stop being lazy. We got to we don't have the time that I think we have. If COVID has shown us nothing else, it has shown us that we don't have the time, because what, you know, President-elect Biden said very effectively was there are 200,000+ homes that's missing somebody from their dinner table, that's missing somebody from a bed that used to sleep there. They started the year and 200,000+, I don't know what the number is now, maybe 226,000 or so.
I think it's closer to 250,000 at this point.
Yeah. So I've been so election, and that's the other thing. We were so election bound for the last, 6-7 days that we've kind of forgot COVID for a minute. And then we've got these record numbers coming in, 100,000+ cases over the last several days per day. So when you think about that, COVID has shown me that we just don't have the time. We don't have the time to play. We've got to be ready to take advantage of these opportunities. And so sometimes when we're tired, we just got to go and pull from strength of each other to keep it going. I know that we are fatigued in so many ways right now, but we've got to figure out how to dust ourselves off, take 5, take 10, come back out and get back in the game. Mm-hmm. So those are my parting comments.
All right. Thank you. That was powerful for sure. Randall, what about you?
I don't want to follow that at all. Thank you, lady. First of all, thank all of you. You guys are so inspirational. I have, I was tired when I got off the phone, and I have a lot of energy tonight after this. So as alumni president, I talk a lot to our alumni and a lot of people around me about engagement. And as far as the alumni are concerned, and I still believe that I want our alumni to get engaged, because a considerable part of who you are today has to be attributed to what you did at your school, and that's any school. but we're talking specifically about HBCUs, and I'm talking specifically about Xavier. So, you know, if you consider that valuable at all, then I need a little bit of your time, talent, and treasure. I need you to be engaged. I need you to do something to get engaged. And I really, you know, LaQuitta wants it all. I just want something. I want you to do something to get engaged. But the other thing is this. I think we all should get engaged more in life. I think we should vote. I think we should care about what's going on in our local politics, because generally that affects you more than national politics.
Right.
Okay. I think I'll go back to it again. I think we need to be more intentional about how we're trying to live our lives. And I think, you know, for me anyway, just trying to be good, trying to do the right thing, trying to be the best I can, because all the time, knowing that I'm going to fail, okay, knowing that I'm not going to do it right all the time, but trying, you know, volunteer, give of yourself, because I personally believe it, the more you give of yourself, the more you'll get back. Okay. So just engage in life. LaQuitta said it. We don't know what tomorrow brings. I know Demetri knows this, you guys don't, but I had COVID earlier this year, and it was a very scary time for me. And it taught me to, you know, take advantage of everything else I got going on. Right. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
All right. Well, I'm going to say a couple closing things, and I'm going to let you close it out for us tonight. Okay, sister?
Sure.
All right. So I love everything that has been said here. I love Cher Wallace. That's class of 95. She said, be more engaged in life, period. Yes, talking to her. Yes, ma'am. Need you. Miss Gwendolyn, thank you for joining us tonight. It's her first time tuning in into Hey Sister, and thank you, Tiffany Devereaux, for getting her to tune in. She said, I'm so glad I found out about Hey Sister. I will spread the word and be back to thought-provoking, stimulating, and great discussion. Have another comment here, said excellent discussion panel. And so we appreciate it all. One of the things I want us to take away, and it's one of the things that I experienced from our homecoming this weekend, is that, and I've already known this to be true, but it just became so crystal clear as we came through this process and worked on the committees and watched the execution and display of everything. We are all we need. We have all we need in terms of talent, in terms of capability, abilities, in terms of know-how, in terms of ability, stick-to-itiveness, and being able to learn and do things, because what we were able to pull off and what the talent. So yeah, there are people who may have names and notoriety, but like you said, I will put our alums up against people with names and notoriety any day. Right. Because we have it. I mean, we have executive producer credits. We have, you know what I mean? We have DJ credits. We got singers. We have dancers. We have, marketers. We have everything that we need. And what I want to see us to do more of, and like we had our Entrepreneur Expo. Most of those people didn't go to school to be an entrepreneur, right, but they have these entrepreneurial pursuits. And one thing it just showed is that we do have everything we need. I want us to tap into us more. Yeah. I think sometimes we have not because we ask not, and we don't look at the person next to us and realize, wow, because some folks, I'm like, I didn't know you could do all of that, right? And we are learning and discovering so much about the talent that we have right next to us. So let's capitalize on what we are, because we are enough and we have everything we need. So that's my closing remarks tonight.
All right. Well, sister, thank you for that. I'm going to just close with piggybacking a little bit off of what we talked about last night. So everybody came into, we were so ready to escape 2019 and to get into 2020, the year of vision. And sister, like you said last night, this year of vision really has been a year of clarity for many of us.
Right.
The vision that we were expecting to live out all of these things that we had put on our vision boards or what have you, that may not have happened. But what did happen is our eyes were open to a lot of people and a lot of situations that both made us uncomfortable, but also showed us how we are viewed by others.
Right.
We learned that, many of the people that we've called friends, or at least had as acquaintances, have bought into this belief that Donald Trump did more for Black people and more for HBCUs than any other president in the United States. And so the one thing that I know that I take away from all of this is we know what others think about us, but we should also now know what we think about us. Because now we see that here we have, as a vice president-elect, an HBCU graduate, a member of the Divine Nine. Now we see where Stacey Abrams was able to galvanize a ground game unlike any, even when we look at the David Axelrods of the world, who during the Obama campaign had this awesome social media strategy. Stacey Abrams did something that no one else has done in modern politics. HBCU graduate. So I think, just to piggyback off of what you said, that we are enough. We're more than enough. We have enough. But more than that, let us stop allowing other people to shape the narrative about who we are and about what our schools produce. Right. Let's give back to the institutions that have given us so very much, so that the next generation of Stacey Abrams, Keisha Lance Bottoms, LaToya Cantrells, and Kamala Harris's, and many others can come forth from these institutions.
All right. Well, with that being said, folks, you have been on live with Hey Sister.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to ask you all to hold the line as we wave goodbye to everybody and say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.